What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Business Blogs podcast. On today's episode, we'll be looking at Single Touch Payroll and what you need to do by July 1st. I'm Chris Manser, and as always, I'm joined by Dale Kitchen. What's going on, Dale?
Not a lot. Back in the podcasting world as always. Inquiries are starting for the new year, so people starting to call through, just looking to chop and change around. So yeah, it's good to get a bit of new blood in the place.
Right. Anything else?
From a business perspective, no, we're sort of getting into the quiet end where we go, not a lot happens. We're just wrapping up tax planning, which should be done in the next couple of days. Planning our meetings when we go out to start the new year. But other than that, yeah, it's just time to relax. I should be on holidays. I don't know what I'm doing here. Yeah, mate, holiday.
Where's the next holidays destination?
Ayers Rock. So we're heading up to Ayers Rock. Yeah. And there's the debate, do we climb the rock or not? Because they're closing it forever.
Yeah, doesn't that close in November, December?
October, I think. It's the end of October. So, yeah, we booked tickets. I think we were going to climb it, but we're just sort of wondering whether we should or not. So, yeah, we're going up for the day, check the rock out and head back. So, we did have a couple of good inquiries for some businesses. One quite a big one, which looks promising, with a bit of work around setting up a bunch of internal protocols that make sure that a couple of companies talk to each other. That's pretty interesting. It's yet to come off. And the other one is just a retail shop.
And mainly now the focus is on what we're talking about today, the Single Touch Payroll.
Yes, Single Touch Payroll. The joys. Yeah, it's been an experience. I think the ATO tried to go hard to start with on Single Touch and then pulled up because, as normal, I don't think they're going to get the response they want. But their official line was, as at the 1st of July this financial year, everyone must be on Single Touch Payroll.
Okay, and what is Single Touch Payroll?
I don't get how I don't know where they got the name, because it's not really single touch. You actually got to click a few more buttons than you normally do. But what it is you are reporting your wages direct to the ATO at the point of creating them. So if I'm paying Jimmy today, I finalise the pay, I send it to the bank, and I also send it to the ATO. And then the ATO have live information about who is getting paid, what they're getting paid. They then make this information available to people through the MyGov website. So if you're an employee, you can click on MyGov, see if your employer is reporting your super, is reporting your wages properly. And also at the end of the year, it means that you don't have to report group certificates anymore. So fun.
What's the reasons behind the ATO moving to this system?
Because they're a bunch of bastards, that's why. Why else would there be? I think it's live reporting, so it's live reporting in real time, which seems to be the push of everyone else. I think it's probably a sign of where the accounting systems are probably going to go. I think within the next sort of 5 years, we'll see accounting systems that are linked directly to the ATO. So this is probably just the test run on how to do it. But it's meant to be live reporting, better reporting, quicker information. It will also check that the employers are doing things properly as well. It's just the start of a system that they will find out more uses for as that goes on. So they'll start to use data matching on companies of certain sizes. They'll go, well, why aren't you paying this much wage? And,
Yes.
The lists are endless, but I think it's the first step in the ATO becoming live information and how their system handles that and how they handle that information.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's a short step to then have GST reported in the same way now. Even a lot of the accounting softwares are pretty much set up where you're 2 or 3 clicks away from sending your GST straight to the information straight to the ATO anyways.
Yeah, and in my lifetime, we'll see a direct connection between the figures that people have and the ATO. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, and that's where having an accountant or registered tax agent looking over your GST before you do that is going to become more important, or even a bookkeeper, because
100%.
that's going to get sent straight to the ATO, and it's just going to come back with more questions. If you're entering it and it's being sent directly, and no one's looking over it, that's where you run into problems very quickly.
I think tax for you tax agents would be the best port of call, is what we need to say.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. Now, a lot of small businesses tend to have less than 20 employees. So currently, if you have under 20, you start on July 1st for Single Touch Payroll. But if you have over 20, you previously should be already reporting. But now, just with the smaller employers that have between, say, 1 and 4 employees, what are the current standards for them? Do they need to roll over on the 1st of July?
So originally the ATO were pitching a free to, if not very, very cheap way of doing it via an app or something like that. They tried to get a lot of people information, but they've now given up on this, and they're saying that micro businesses, which is 1 to 4 employees, should be able to report their wages every quarter through their accountant. So what that means is that when the accountant does the BAS, and if you have 1 to 4 employees, you just basically report through your BAS. So you don't have the requirement of lodging separately for every time you do a wage. Now, I think we should probably go back a step, maybe we should, and explain how people can actually get into doing Single Touch Payroll. Or we probably know. I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
Well, we just keep going through the levels of requirements for now, and then we can go into detail of how they can report it, if it's either with a tax agent or if it is them personally setting up the software link with the ATO.
So one thing I did read, which I'm not going to be held as gospel, but the ATO aren't going to be fining people in the first 1 to 2 years if they aren't on Single Touch Payroll. So they give, unless you're a business over 20 employees, they're giving everyone else a bit more time to get into the system and to get into the processes. If you've got, say, 5 or plus employees, you're probably going to be running an online package anyway. You're probably just going to lodge it through that. If you're a micro employer which doesn't have access or hasn't moved into a cloud sort of online software, the ATO are going to say, we understand that this is a big step, we're going to give you time, and you have until 2020, is that when they were talking?
2021. So June
2021.
30th. Yeah, June 30th, 2021.
So yeah, you don't have to be compliant with the actual Single Touch until 2021. So yeah, it's still going to be a gradual rollout. So they're not getting strong on it as yet anyway.
Yeah, and that's certainly something to be aware of, because what I've seen, certainly, I think with Xero, QuickBooks, I don't know if Myo, but they've all sent us emails running through their software applications now that there is one for 1 to 4 employees, but it's something that you really don't need to consider until a couple of years, until everything gets flushed out. And by then you may have more employees, or you may just be ready to use Xero software as it is. But I don't think there's a great push now to sign up to a software provider. You have plenty of time over the next few years. You don't need to feel like you've got 2 weeks from today to be with Xero or QuickBooks. You actually have a lot more time up your sleeve.
Yeah, so all the small guys, don't panic, but there's still time.
And also, do you want to add that about the closely held payees? So family members, directors and business owners don't have to report directly each pay run, so they can continue to pay at the end of the financial year.
So if you're a person who goes through the year Then we determine a bonus at the end of the year. We pay you that bonus. That's still a viable option. That's not going to go away. One of the worries was that the ATO are going to start to work out, all right, why aren't you paying this person weekly instead of monthly or, every 6 months? So you can still have large payments every 6 months, and they've made exceptions for closely held companies, which is family held companies, so that you can you've still got the flexibility to deal with payroll as you used to.
Exactly. Now, do you want to move on to the reporting side of things?
If you are going to move on to Single Touch, and I'd probably suggest majority of people do, it's then how do you lodge it, and what are you actually doing? So what it is you're linking your payroll system directly to the ATO. So they have a click of a button, and then that sends information straight into the ATO. So much like when you do your wage and you take that file out of the wages run, and then you put it into your bank account, and that populates for all the information of your wages, you're doing the same with the ATO as well. There are a number of ways that can be done. Probably the most used way, and probably 90% of people will be using their current online system. There is some setup requirements with that, in that you've got to link certain things with the ATO, and I'd give your accountant a call about that, and they can help you through what needs to be set up and what needs to be linked. If you are a smaller person and you don't have access to an online accounting software, or your software hasn't come along, there are free options. You were looking at one today or the other day. What was that one?
Yeah, Reckon, accounting software provider. Reckon have created an application, a mobile app for your phone or tablet you can download, and it's free to use, and you can report directly through their software. But I think what we need to also remember is, with all these options, you will have to contact the ATO to provide your software ID. So if you're using Xero, for example, you'll go through the process of setting up Single Touch Payroll, and then the last step will be to contact the ATO to connect your software ID with the ATO system to allow that connection to occur.
One thing I did notice while playing around with that free software from Reckon, it is very buggy. So I couldn't set up my company, but I could set up other entities because of just an error that kept showing up. So I think it's just a matter of trial and error. It is a very easy to use program. It's a phone-based program. I'm not slinging Reckon. I've never been one to sort of push their stuff. But it's basically an app you have on your phone. You set up your employee, you link it to the ATO, and then you just manually type in the Payees every time you do a pay run. So it is free, but if I had more than 1 or 2 employees, I probably wouldn't be going down that path. And there are other paid services you can use, and they're not that expensive. But yeah, first port of call, always look at your online accounting software. Second point of call, if you're not on that, look for a small free package via Reckon. A little bit more work, but it still gets the job done.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about it, 2 years in the software world, the updates of the software will be huge. So who knows what will be even more streamlined in the future. Maybe I'm unsure if MyOb have the access, the ability to set up Single Touch Payroll, but within the next 2 years, surely that'll be changed over where that's possible. And maybe if that's not the case, you'd look at moving to a different software provider.
Yeah, I think that they can't ignore it. There's no way that they couldn't set that up over the next couple of years. But yeah, it's not the big sort of, I know they've been pushing it heavily, but it's just a little sort of thing that you've got to remember at the end of the day. It's just another step to the payroll process. I don't get where this single touch mumbo jumbo come from. It's not like you just press a button and your whole payroll gets done. Payroll's still as complicated as ever. It's just another step, and it's not one single button. It's like 20 or 30 buttons if you're doing it through the manual way, or it is one button if you're doing it through Xero. So yeah, maybe that's it. Who knows?
And also, just to mention, if you do make an error in posting, you can always go back and change it by changing a pay run to draft and editing it and resending it, or also running an unscheduled pay run to fix any errors you've made. And certainly there's no penalties or anything as of now if you make mistakes, and they'll allow for changes. Part of the system allows that.
The Reckon one didn't though, so you can't go back and change on the Reckon. I know it's something they will look at changing, but yeah, as of today, if you calculated Joe's pay wrong, you'd have to reduce the next one by the amount you stuffed up the first one.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a mess around.
Which is,
but,
it still solves the problem. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And then again, as you've said, you get 4 or 5 employees. For another $10 a month, it's not the end of the world to use the software. And then maybe at that stage you'll look at upgrading to accounting software if you don't have that already. Because surely if you've got several employees and you're not using accounting software, how well is your business really going?
Well, if you've got several employees, you'd need to be doing some extra tracking on them anyway. So whether that's a work in process type arrangement where you're just checking the profitability of the jobs, or you're just looking at what they're doing every day. Yeah. Because if you can get a 10% efficiency out of 7 employees, that's probably going to save you like $100,000.
Final thoughts? What's
final thoughts?
Quick summary that we can use on short video.
So they were pitching this as like the introduction of the GST. There should be some changes to your business, but not a lot. I think with the advances in technology, most people should be able to work out some form of a strategy in order to do it, in either consultation with their accountants or through their current online package. If you're not there yet and you're a micro employer, don't stress. You've still got another couple of years to sort your stuff out. I would be I'd start to ask the questions. I would probably set up, if I was a micro employer, I'd probably just set up the Reckon online, punch it out and leave it at that. I think that once the implementation comes in and once you start looking at paying people out, ETP payments, which is payments of people when they finalise, I think you'll run into problems. Talk to your accountant when you run into those problems and don't make it an issue at the end of the year. Next
week we were going to have a quick, as it's end of financial year, just going to hit you with some payroll deductions. Not payroll deductions, tax deductions.
So Stop drinking before the podcast, Chris. Jesus.
So just a few tips that you normally give out to most people. Spend 10-15 minutes and go through them, hit them up.
Yep, I think so. And then just a couple of things you got to be aware of in the end of year cleanup. And then we will get back onto starting a business and where we're at.
Yeah. So hit the metrics and measurements.
I was thinking about, and I'll probably come back to it, and I think I might do a day in the life and where I'd be spending my time, and then we'll start looking at that sort of year-end then we'll start looking at the metrics after a year.
Okay, sounds good. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you again, Chris.
See you later.
I'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of the Business Block Podcast. If you have any further questions about Single Touch Payroll, get in touch with us, www.taxforyou.com.au, or across all the social medias. Tax for You Melbourne should be able to find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Thanks, guys.